I never imagined witnessing the unbelievable rise of a brand that overcame devastating loss. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. It was a Tuesday, the kind where the sun shines bright, but the shadows seem darker. My phone buzzed, sending cold chills down my spine. Staring at the screen, my heart skipped. There it was, the news, the tragic accident. The headlines screamed, "Tragic loss of visionary founder." They said he was invincible, a genius. But on that day, a single car crash shattered everything. I fell to my knees, my trembling hands pressing against the cool floor. Tears stung my eyes. His name was Leo. To me, he was not just a mentor, he was a father figure. He'd taken me in when I was lost, giving me hope when I least deserved it. My mind raced back to our late-night talks, his laughter echoing in my ears, filling the empty spaces inside me. But now, silence. Only silence hung in the air. Our small, tight-knit team felt the grief. We met in the office, faces pale, eyes hollow. The once vibrant space felt like a tomb. I glanced around at my friends, each one of us holding our breath, burdened by the weight of his absence. Anna, with her ink-stained hands, wiped tears from her cheeks. Mark, usually so confident, stood there, lost. Everyone had their dreams tied to him, and now those dreams lay scattered like broken glass as news spread. Whispers consumed the city. There were rumors, strange allegations surrounding Leo's past. Some said he had enemies. Others questioned his choices, labeling him reckless. The questions gnawed at my gut. How could the man who lifted us up be painted with such dark strokes? I pushed the thoughts aside. Grief needed focus, not doubt. But a seed of suspicion took root, sprouting in the back of my mind. With every passing hour, the world outside our office seemed to grow darker. I decided I needed to dig deeper, to understand the man who meant everything to me. What if there were answers hidden in the shadows? I could feel an electric charge in the air as I searched for the truth. Each clue I uncovered felt like a thread connecting us, drawing me closer to Leo's hidden life. The tension twisted around me. Tight as a noose, in the midst of my search, a message popped up on my screen. An anonymous tip. Meet me at the old warehouse. My heart raced. Trust was a luxury I could no longer afford, and yet, I felt an irresistible pull. Who was behind this? Was it someone in his circle? Or the enemy everyone whispered about? I had to know. But as I stood at the door of the abandoned building, shadows danced inside, taunting me. I hesitated. What if this was a trap? What if Leo had been hiding something much darker? The air was thick, and silence echoed as loud as thunder. I took a deep breath, pushing the door open. Then there it was, a flicker of movement. My heart shouted in my chest. Who was waiting for me? Questions swirled in my mind. Conflicts collided. I took a step inside, ready to confront the unknown. Hey! Before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon, and while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The dim light filtering through the cracked windows created a haunting atmosphere inside the warehouse, flickering like the remnants of hope. My heart raced as I stepped further in, the echo of my footsteps a reminder of my isolation. Shadows seemed to come alive, creeping along the walls, and I strained my ears for sounds, breathless with anticipation. Hello? I ventured, my voice swallowed by the darkness. Over here. A voice came from a corner, edged with familiarity, yet layered with trepidation. My breath caught. It was Clara, Leo's right-hand woman and the only other person who seemed as lost in this chaos as I was. I hadn't seen her since the news broke. She stepped into the half-light, her features softening into something almost ethereal. I wasn't sure you'd come, she said, her eyes searching mine. Neither was I admitted cautiously, still feeling the weight of suspicion on my shoulders. What did you find? You sounded urgent in your message. Clara glanced around, as if the walls might have ears. I've been piecing things together. There are whispers about Leo's accident. Some things don't add up. Her breath hitched, and pulling herself together, she continued. I found out he had meetings with some sketchy people, and then there's the insurance policy he took out just weeks before. My mind reeled. Leo, cautious and always planning for the future, wouldn't suddenly put himself at risk, would he? Are you suggesting that he may not have been an innocent victim? That maybe, just maybe, he was involved in something dangerous? Clara's voice trembled, mirroring the unease churning in my stomach. I refused to believe that. I snapped defensively, but her words struck a nerve. A flicker of doubt sparked in my mind. What if I had only seen the polished surface of Leo? The confident entrepreneur with a light that drew people in. But he was a complex man. How well did I really know him? She took a step closer, her energy shifting from fear to determination. Look, we owe it to him to uncover the truth. He wouldn't have wanted us to just accept things as they are. This company, it's his legacy. Suddenly, the warehouse door banged open and we froze. Instinctively, we pressed ourselves against the walls, heartbeats echoing in our chests like war drums. A group of men entered, their silhouettes sharp and menacing against the waning light. I could feel Clara stiffen beside me. Keep your head down, she whispered. If they're here, that means they're looking for something. My mind raced. Were they connected to the rumors? Did they know about Leo's meetings? Or was it something more sinister? I couldn't focus on the fear that gnawed at me. Instead, I glanced around, scrambling for an escape route. My fingers brushed against a nearby window, a thin veil of dust covering its surface. I turned to Clara, swallowing hard. We need to get out of here. But as I turned back, our eyes met in a moment of shared resolve. Before we could move, one of the men turned sharply, scanning the room. I know someone's in here, he barked. His voice gravelly and commanding. My heart exploded in my chest. The adrenaline kicked in, and without another word, we darted for the nearest exit, with whispers of Leo's secrets swirling behind us. Outside, the chill of the night air wrapped around us, a stark contrast to the suffocating dark of the warehouse. We dove into the shadows, breathless, fear coursing through every fiber of my being. But as we gained some distance, a thought struck me cold. We were no closer to uncovering the truth. Instead, we had stirred the hornet's nest, and whatever awaited us in the coming days could change everything. As we hurried down the alley, Clara's hand gripped my arm. What if we're not just chasing shadows? She breathed, panic in her eyes. What if they come for us next? I won't let that happen, I replied fiercely, though I felt the tremor in my voice. Yet even as I said the words, doubt clawed at me. How was I going to protect the legacy of the man we both admired? Each step felt like it echoed through the empty night, leading us toward an uncertainty that gripped my heart. And that's when my phone buzzed again, the screen lighting up with the same anonymous number. My stomach twisted as I took it out, the message simple yet devastating. You're digging too deep. Stop now or you'll regret it. Hope and fear battled within me, but there was no going back. The truth lurked in the shadows, and I was determined to find it, even if it meant confronting the demons Leo left behind. The chill of the night wrapped around us, but the real coldness seeped deeper, straight into my bones, more insidious than the autumn air. I glanced at Clara, her expression a tumult of fear and determination, mirroring my own inner turmoil. We can't let them intimidate us, I murmured, pushing back against the gnawing anxiety clawing at the edge of my resolve. Clara nodded, though her eyes betrayed a flicker of uncertainty. We had barely escaped what felt like a narrow brush with danger, and the ring of that foreboding message still echoed in my mind, its chilling invitation to retreat weighing down my every thought. Where do we go now? Clara's voice quavered, echoing my internal question. The city stretched ahead of USA maze of uncertainty and darkness. Each shadow seemed to pulse with the threat lurking behind us, stretching its tendrils to ensnare us in despair. We need to find a place to regroup, I stammered, searching for any semblance of direction. Somewhere they won't think to look. I remembered the cafe a few blocks away, the one where Leo often held clandestine meetings. It had dim lighting, corners for hushed conversations, and the familiar smell of roasted coffee that used to make me feel at home as we hurried through the streets. The weight of my thoughts grew heavier with each passing moment. The swirling anxiety morphed from external fears of the unknown to internal doubts I couldn't shake. What if Clara was right? Was Leo the man I thought he was? Would the truth truly illuminate the path ahead, or would it unleash darkness beyond comprehension? When we reached the cafe, the neon sign flickered like a heartbeat, casting glimmers of light against the night's heavy fabric. Inside, the atmosphere shifted. The hum of conversation surrounded us like a warm embrace. Yet that warmth felt incongruous amidst the icy grip of fear. We found a quiet booth in the back, the perfect refuge for whispered secrets and plans. "Are you okay?" Clara asked gently, her hand brushing over mine as she peered into my eyes.
"I'm just processing."
I took a deep breath, trying to anchor myself in the moment. The smell of coffee hanging in the air threw me back to simpler times, when life revolved around laughter rather than lies. What if we're wrong? What if we ruin everything? Clara leaned in closer, her voice low but fierce. What if we don't? What if what we uncover helps us understand who Leo truly was? He deserves that much. Her eyes blazed with an earnestness that cut through my cloud of doubt. "I need you to believe in this as much as I do," she urged, her voice steadying me. "Even in the face of everything, hope is all we have left." A flicker of determination sparked within me, igniting the remnants of the fierce love I felt for Leo. I envisioned him, remembered his laughter, the way he constantly challenged the odds stacked against him. "You're right," I replied, my voice gaining strength. "We owe it to him to find the truth." As the barista called out orders, I allowed myself a moment to breathe, to take in the sense of brewing coffee and toasted pastries. In that small space, despite the darkness that threatened to close in, small moments of hope flickered like candle flames, fragile yet undeniable. But the fleeting peace shattered when my phone buzzed again, this time with a call. I recoiled instinctively, but Clara looked at me expectantly, her expression almost pleading. "Answer it. They might have something valuable." With shaky hands, I accepted the call, uncertainty pooling in my stomach like ice. "Hello?" I spoke, my voice cracking slightly. "Just checking in," came a voice I hadn't expected. It was Jake, Leo's closest confidant. The surprise was mixed with relief, yet the urgency in my gut deepened. "I heard you were looking into Leo's accident. You need to stop." "Why should I?" I challenged, heart racing. "What do you know?" His silence was deafening, and just when I thought he might confess, he continued. "There are forces at play here that you haven't even tapped into, and chasing this will only cause more pain. I can't tell you everything, but you need to trust me, for Leo's sake." "Trust you? After everything that's happened?" The disbelief crept into my voice, and Clara's expression mirrored my myriad of emotions. "I know it sounds insane," he pressed, "but I just got some intel. There's more than just his accident at stake here. The company is in jeopardy." My heart raced, interest peaking amid the confusion. "What do you mean?" But before he could elaborate, an explosion of chaos erupted outside, shattering the quiet bubble we had found. The cafe windows rattled, accompanied by an ear-splitting sound that made my blood run cold. "Get down." Clara pulled me instinctively as tables toppled and terrified screams filled the air. As I lay there, a terrifying realization flooded through me. The whispers of Leo's secrets had stirred something far deeper than I ever imagined. As chaos reigned, my heart beat furiously, a drum signaling the pending storm. My fight for truth had led us down a perilous path, and shadows had begun to take shape. What had we awakened in our search? The cacophony of shattered glass and terrified screams eclipsed everything else, wrapping us in a shroud of panic. Clara's grip on my arm was vice-like as we hit the floor, seeking refuge beneath the table where old coffee stains mingled with fresh fear. "Is everyone okay?" A frantic voice erupted from behind the counter, and the barista, a young woman with wide, terrified eyes, tried to maintain her composure amid the chaos. I could see patrons scrambling for exits, their faces a blur of shock painted under the flashing lights of the cafe's neon sign. We were trapped in this bubble of horror, unable to move while chaos broke loose just outside. "Stay low," Clara whispered urgently, her eyes darting toward the window where the muffled cries of bystanders pierced the night. I could feel her heart racing, mirroring my own, and in that moment, a primal instinct kicked in, demanding we remain as hidden and silent as possible. "What the hell is happening?" I murmured, barely recognizing my own voice over the ringing in my ears. The explosion had rattled my core, an earthquake of sound that resonated deep within my bones. "I don't know." Clara's voice was trembling, edged with fear, yet laced with an undeniable current of resolve. "But we need to get out of here. We can't stay exposed." Something feels wrong, too wrong, that I swallowed hard, tasting the tang of anxiety on my tongue. "We can't go out there unless we know what we're facing," I insisted, feeling a surge of protectiveness for Clara. Was our search for the truth worth this kind of danger? But the universe seemed to have other plans. Somewhere outside, the sirens wailed, a haunting chorus echoing through the night. The police were coming, but so too were the shadows we had inadvertently awakened. Clara leaned closer, her eyes flickering with a mix of dread and determination. "We have to know the truth. For Leo. We can't let fear contain us any longer." As if conjured by her words, memories of Leo surged forth, his laughter, his fierce spirit. He would never have backed down from a fight, from the truth. The thought both invigorated me and pained me. Clara was right. We owed him our unwavering pursuit of justice, even if it dragged us deeper into peril. I glanced at the barista, who had managed to duck behind the counter. "Do you have a back exit?" I asked urgently, trying to capture her attention through the haze of panic. She nodded, wide-eyed. "Follow me. There's a service entrance." She seemed to hesitate, glancing at the chaos outside before she steeled herself. "But it's risky. We have no idea what's out there." Together, we crawled toward the back of the cafe, cutting through the remnants of our shattered reality. Clara remained close, eyes fixed on the door ahead, her breath a mirror of my own. We reached the door, and with one last shared glance, the barista pushed it open, revealing a narrow, dimly lit alley that slithered into the darkness. "Go," Clara urged, and we slipped outside, adrenaline flooding my senses as the sounds of chaos of the cafe faded into the distance. But the night air held a different logic. It was thick with danger and uncertainty, and a chilling wind blew against us, urging us forward. "Where do we go now?" I questioned, panic creeping back into my chest as street lamps cast eerie shadows, reminding me of the danger that lurked in the unknown. "Back to my place," Clara replied, her voice steady but urgent. "I know a route through the park. We can hide there, gather our thoughts. I need a plan." We began to move, staying low, hearts pounding as we navigated through the labyrinth of streets. A pulsating fear ran beneath our skin, a reminder that we were deep in something larger than ourselves. With every step, I thought about Jake's warning, the whispered implications of forces at play, and the urgency in his voice that felt laced with genuine concern. As we passed through the park, moonlight dappled the ground like the fragmented pieces of our shattered world. I stole glimpses at Clara, her face a mix of determination and fear. "Do you really think we can uncover what happened to Leo?" asked, my voice barely escaping my lips. "That we have to," she replied fiercely. "There's no going back now." Just then, I spotted something glinting on the ground, an envelope, discarded and covered in dirt as if it had been there for days. I knelt down, pulling it free, inherently cautious but compelled by the possibility of something significant buried beneath the grime. "What is it?" Clara asked. Peering over my shoulder, I opened the envelope, my heart racing as I pulled out a photographer's snapshot of Leo standing by a company building, his expression solemn. But there was something else in the frame. A familiar face lingered too close, the shadow of a figure I recognized all too well, the head of the company Leo had worked for. A person cloaked in ambition and secrets. What does this mean?" Clara breathed, her eyes widening, before I could answer. I heard a rustling in the bushes behind us. My heart dropped, fear and adrenaline clawing at my throat as I turned slowly. A figure emerged, the shadows revealing a face I never expected to see, a familiar face that sent shockwaves of disbelief through me. "Surprise?" Jake said, an unsettling grin stretching across his face, his eyes gleaming with something I couldn't quite place. "Looks like you two are in quite a bind." Clara and I exchanged wide-eyed glances, the plot thickening around us like a noose. Secrets were clawing their way back into the light, and the fight for truth had only just begun. As Jake stepped into the moonlight, the chill of the night became palpable, wrapping around us like a thin veil of dread. It was surreal seeing him after the chaos of the cafe and all we had endured since Leo's death. The grin on his face felt like a mask, concealing his true intentions beneath an unsettling surface. "Jake?" I breathed, trying to process the shock of his sudden appearance. "What are you doing here? We thought you were out of the city." "Funny story," Jake replied, his voice nonchalant as though we were discussing mundane trivialities instead of the turmoil unfolding around us. "Turns out, things are crazier than ever. But you two look like you could use some help." "Help isn't exactly what we need right now," Clara snapped, her voice steady despite the tremor in her tone. "We're looking for answers, not another distraction." She was right. I felt the weight of their interconnectedness. The more we pieced together Leo's life, the more perilous our path became. But Jake's presence dangled between us like the tantalizing temptation of uncertainty and the harrowing reality of danger. "Why do you have to be so skeptical?" Jake said, his smile fading slightly. "I know things you'd want to understand." "What do you know?" I demand, urgency flooding through me. "What happened to Leo?" Jake's gaze shifted to the photograph clutched in my hand. It was a curious look, as if he could almost taste the bitter tang of past sins swirling around us. "Let's just say I've been trying to fit the pieces of this puzzle together too." "Why should we trust you?" Clara challenged him, arms crossed defiantly. "Because I don't want to see you get hurt," Jake replied, and in that moment, a flicker of sincerity broke through the facade. "Things are darker than you realize, and you need to be careful if you're digging into this. It's dangerous, Clara." "Why, Jake?" I pressed. "What do you know that we don't? Tell us." He hesitated, glancing around as if the shadows themselves were eavesdropping. "Okay, but we need to move. There are people who wouldn't want you to find out." "Not now." With that, Jake turned to lead us deeper into the park where the trees stood sentinel, branches arching overhead as if concealing secrets of their own. Clara and I exchanged skeptical glances, our hearts hammering in unison. Desperation wrapped around us, and I could feel a storm brewing, one that had the potential to tear us apart while forging a path to discovery. We followed Jake, weaving between stark shadows and shimmering moonlit patches. My mind buzzed with questions that crashed against the walls of urgency, each unanswered query echoing louder with every step. "What did you find, Jake?" I asked, my voice hushed yet laced with intensity. "Did you know about the company Leo was working for?" He glanced back, his expression taut. "I knew some things, but I had to keep my distance. It wasn't safe for anyone close to Leo or for me." Clara's expression hardened. "If you knew so much, why didn't you tell us earlier? We could have done something. I didn't know how. I was afraid of what they'd do if they found out I was involved," he replied, pain threading through his voice, revealing a vulnerability that felt strangely misplaced in the chaos around us. We reached a secluded corner of the park where shadowed benches sat abandoned beneath the trees. Jake turned to face us, his eyes narrowing as if he were preparing to divulge something monumental. He was on to something, Clara. Leo had uncovered a series of illegal activities, money laundering, and what? I interrupted, feeling a rush of confusion and urgency. "What do you mean?" "There are people involved that you can't even imagine," Jake continued, glancing nervously around as if the trees themselves were listening. "And I think they might have thought Leo would go public with what he found." Clara clenched her fists, a new resolve bathing her in strength. "And we're next in line, right?" "Right," Jake confirmed, his brow furrowing in concern. "You need to understand, if you keep digging, you're not just questioning their operations. You're questioning your own safety." Depths of his words seeped into me like a cold drizzle. We'd already stepped into a realm fraught with danger. There was no turning back now. And yet, the gravity of our quest seemed to grow heavier with each revelation. "Oh," Clara said, a fierce determination igniting in her voice. "We can't abandon this. We need to find the truth. For Leo." "Then he'll help you," Jake stated, his facade finally crumbling, revealing hidden anguish behind his cynical smile. "But we need to do this smartly and carefully. I know places we can go, information we can gather." Suddenly, a distant sound broke through the tranquility of the park, a low hum that began to build into a menacing roar. I turned sharply, the noise slicing through the air like a knife. "What is that?" Clara asked, her eyes wide with alarmed. "It sounds like my voice trailed off, just as headlights pierced through the darkness, illuminating our small haven in the thicket. Shadows moved with intent, dark figures emerging from the vehicles that had rolled up ominously to the park's entrance. "They found us," Jake hissed, panic flaring in his eyes. "Run!" Clara shouted, and we dashed into the labyrinth of trees, hearts racing as branches clawed at our clothes, pulling us back into the chaos of uncertainty. The night wrapped around us, thick and unforgiving, but we had to keep moving. With each pounding step, the reality of our situation crashed down upon us, suffocating yet electrifying. There was no way to turn back now, not when the shadows of deception were breathing down our necks. What awaited us deeper in the heart of the night remained unclear. But one thing became evident. The truth was not the only thing we were fighting for anymore. The air was thick with urgency as our hearts raced alongside our footsteps, desperation propelling us into the unseen depths of the park. The trees, once static and serene, now seemed alive, shaking with the silent promise of betrayal and revelation. Just moments before, we had been anchored in that fleeting intimacy of shared grief and the fragile promise of truth. Now, we were resolute fugitives, fleeing from shadows too immense to fathom. "We can't keep running forever," I shouted back to Clara, my thoughts spiraling around what lay beyond the trees and the encroaching headlights behind us. They painted a picture of our potential demise, a haunting reminder of how quickly clarity could morph into chaos. "Just keep moving," Clara panted, her determination reigniting my own as I felt the heat of her resolve. "If we keep focusing on Leo and the reason we started this, we can't lose sight of what's really important." Suddenly, Jake veered off the makeshift path, pulling us toward a cluster of low-hanging branches. "In here," he urged, and we ducked into the makeshift shelter. The cloak of darkness enveloped us, muffling the relentless sound of pursuing footsteps. We pressed against the trunk of the tree, breathless silence draping over us. I could hear my heartbeat, a frantic drum echoing the pounding in my ears, an unsettling reminder that our world had shifted irrevocably. From this position, I could see the glow of the vehicles, ominous and flickering, like the last embers of a fire long extinguished. "Who are they?" I whispered, desperate for clarity from Jake, who leaned against the bark, his eyes darting with anxiety. "People I crossed paths with before," he said, bravely masking his fear, but I could see the quiver in his hand as he clutched at the bark. "They're not just after us. They were tied to Leo's investigation. He was getting too close, and I didn't warn him." The weight of guilt seeped into the atmosphere, wrapping around us like a fraying rope, tethering us to our shared pain. Clara whimpered softly, her hands clenched into trembling fists at her sides as the reality of our plight dawned on us. "We still need to keep going," Clara asserted, shaking off the tension. "We can find out what they know, whatever they were looking for with Leo. That knowledge is our only chance." "Clara," I breathed, feeling a pang of fear for how this relentless pursuit could swallow her whole. "What if we're leading ourselves straight into a trap? What if finding the truth means losing ourselves?" "I'm not afraid," she replied, her gaze brightening with defiance, but sadness hung beneath the surface of her words. "I can't let fear dictate our choices. Not after everything." There was something in her conviction, a spark of resilience that ignited beneath the weight of our shared pain. And for the first time since Leo's death, I felt it too. A cautious flicker of hope that, amidst the chaos, perhaps we could wrestle control of our fate back from the shadows lurking at the edges of our lives. But just as the shadows loomed with a tangible threat, another unsettling sound broke through the night, a high-pitched cry emanating from somewhere deeper in the park. It was something raw, something that sounded unhuman. Clara and I exchanged bewildered glances. "What was that?" I whispered, dread pooling in the pit of my stomach. "I don't know." "But we can't stay here," Jake urged, his voice barely above a whisper. "If they find us, let's split up," Clara suggested, her mind racing ahead. "We can create distractions. Find the clues we need. I'll lead them away. You two meet at the old gazebo by the river. We need to act fast now," I protested, the mere idea of separating sending a jolt of panic coursing through me. "We stick together. That's how we survive this." "What if that cry is someone trapped? Or worse?" Clara said, her determination holding firm. "Trust me, it'll be okay. Just get ready to meet me at the gazebo. They'll find a way to pull them off." "Clara, wait." I reached for her, but then I remembered Leo, how his own courage had pushed him onward even when it felt impossible. The chilling thought that we might be powerless against the night made my heart ache. "They'll be back, I promise," Clara whispered, and in that moment, the conviction in her voice became a lifeline, something I clung to as she darted towards the sound, her silhouette swallowed by the dark. "Are you ready?" Jake grasped my shoulder, his warmth grounding me amid the whirlwind. I wanted to scream after her, to pull her back into our shared cocoon of safety, but I knew that we had to trust her fierce will. "Let's go," I replied, forcing my legs to move, even as dread pooled in my chest like a stone weighing me down. We emerged from our hiding place disoriented, yet compelled onward by sheer instinct. As we crossed paths with the flickering light, I felt the shadows handle our fears like puppets, twisting and tugging with each choice we faced. And then, a heavy gasp echoed across the park, a voice I recognized. "Clara!" I felt adrenaline course through my veins, my heart constricting around the name I'd just heard. The shadows weren't just observers. They were weeks of pain, fear, and unresolved grief clawing at every inch of our journey. "Quick!" Jake urged, eyes wide. "Run!" But as we sprinted toward the gazebo, a realization settled heavy and creeping in my gut. The night was only beginning to reveal its depths, the cries of anguish and secrets, the shattered bonds and unstoppable resolve. And just as we reached the edge of the clearing, a figure stepped out from the shadows, illuminating our path ahead, forever marking that moment with an echo of dangerous familiarity. "Jake?" the figure called softly, a twisted smile blooming on their lips. "Did you really think you could hide forever?" And in that singular moment, the night cracked open, ushering in the haunting truth of how perspectives can shift, revealing the threads of betrayal threaded tightly through our lives, leaving us grappling for answers in a world turned upside down. As the moon hung low in the sky, casting silver shadows across the ground, my mind raced to make sense of the figure standing before us. It took a moment for recognition to seep through the fog of chaos. The world slipped beneath my feet as I gasped in disbelief at the familiar yet terrifying sight. There stood Lila, the girl who had vanished into the night months before, swallowed whole by the enigma that had entangled so many of us. "Lila?" Jake's voice cracked, uncertainty draping over him like a heavy cloak. Where have you been?" She stepped closer, every footfall echoing with a confidence I had never seen in her before. Her hair, once strung with the innocence of youth, now fell in wild waves, framing a face hardened by untold experiences. The ethereal glow of the moonlight revealed eyes that sparkled with a strange mix of mischief and pain, refracted like a prism. "I've been right where I needed to be," she said, her voice smooth yet laced with a frost that cut through the warm summer air. "And it seems you all could use a hand." "We're not playing games, Lila," Jake retorted, anger rising in his throat. "You disappeared and we thought the worst had happened. We need to find Leo," her smile twisted, pulling something dark and unfamiliar from deep within. "You still pine for the boy who chased shadows while failing to see the truth in front of him? There's no point in finding what's already been lost." A tremor ran through my body at her words. "Don't you care about him? About any of us? Care?" Lila laughed, sound rich with bitterness. In this world of glitter and deception, care gets you nothing but heartache. Try detaching from your small-town notions of loyalty. Stop, Jake shouted, taking a step forward, his voice rising with concern. What happened to you? I've learned lessons you've yet to fathom, she replied, leaning in closer, a conspiratorial spark lighting her fierce gaze. Understand, we don't have much time. They're coming, the ones who don't understand these secrets we've all been exposed to. The ones who closed their hearts while we bled. Who? I choked, confusion intertwining with fear tearing at the seams of my reality. Those who wore masks of friendship while leading Leo into danger. Those who thought they could manipulate us, she said, her tone dropping into a shadowed whisper. They've been here the entire time. Hidden in plain sight, an echo of fear curled in my gut, a gnawing thought creeping in. What do you mean? You're scaring us, Lila. Just tell us what you know. Her eyes fixed on me, and for a moment, we fell into a silence woven with gravity. I had to learn the hard way that there is loyalty, and then there is betrayal. Do you want truth? Are you ready for the burden it carries? Before we could answer, the sound of rustling leaves reached us, masked footsteps threading through the underbrush like vultures circling their prey. Time hesitated as shadows danced across Lila's features, an ethereal mix of temptation and danger. Lila, what are you talking about? Jake asked, his voice trembling. There's a bigger picture to Leo's death. He was onto something, she replied hurriedly. And if you want to find him, you must be willing to play their game. What game? I asked, fear bubbling up like molten rock. Lila seemed to wrestle with her thoughts for a moment, glancing nervously over her shoulder. I can't explain everything right now. Find me at the old clock tower tomorrow night at dusk. They won't be far behind, but we need to work together if you want any chance of uncovering the truth. Meet me there, or you risk losing everything. Lila, wait, I started, but before I could finish, she melted back into the night, leaving us with her cryptic words echoing in our minds. What just happened? Jake whispered, his voice barely audible. I don't know, I stammered, my heart racing. What if she's mixed up in this too? What if we can't trust her? But in my heart, a stirring of hope intertwined with every fear. Perhaps our fates were more connected than we could ever understand. Perhaps even Lila could grasp the truth that had tied us all together. Then, from the shadows behind the trees emerged familiar figures, less than a dozen yards away. The silhouettes of the people who stalked us, their intentions stitched together by darkness. Run, Jake shouted, pulling me away in the opposite direction. As we sprinted into the depths of the park, adrenaline coursed through me like fiery, a potent mix of dread and urgency. The ground became uneven beneath my feet, each step resonating louder than the last. My heart pulsed a drumbeat of uncertainty, wondering whether we could truly face what lay ahead. But just then, a sharp cry cut through the chaos, a scream that resonated with unmistakable despair. It carried a chilling familiarity, sending cold tendrils down my spine, echoing Clara's name in a voice that shattered the brittle strands of my resolve. Clara, I yelled, desperate and terrified. And with that, the night unfolded with a breathless urgency. The clock was ticking, each second drawing me closer to a truth I feared to embrace, and perhaps a confrontation that would change everything I thought I knew. The night stretched on, darkness enveloping me as I stumbled through the underbrush, Jake's grip fierce on my arm. My heart thudded against my ribs like a wild thing, each breath a struggle against the fear that clawed at my throat. Clara's voice echoed in my mind, intertwining with Lilith's cryptic warnings, weaving a tapestry of unknown shadows. Keep running, Jake urged, his breath ragged, pulling me further into the thicket. I could taste the metallic tang of fear on my tongue, a visceral reminder of the stakes involved. What were we up against? How could Lila have changed so much in such a short time? Suddenly, the world erupted into a symphony of chaos. Shouts echoed through the trees, familiar voices rising in alarm, plunging the night deeper into confusion. Panic clawed at my insides, an animalistic urge to flee overtaking my rationality. But then came that scream again, pure and raw, a sound that could shatter even the strongest resolve. Clara! I shouted, the name bursting forth as if it were a lifeline. We had to find her, to rescue her from whatever darkness threatened to snuff out her spark. Jake hesitated. We can't, he said, his tone a mixture of desperation and disbelief. They're closing in. But I didn't care. I couldn't just run away, abandon Clara to whatever fate awaited her. The bond between us ran deeper than fear. It was a tapestry woven through countless memories, laughs, tears, and uncountable nights of whispered secrets. She was my sister, and no amount of danger could sever that bond. Just give me a second, I urged, breaking free from his grasp. I turned back, pushing through the thick foliage where the shadows beckoned mysteriously. Clara's cries became my beacon, pulling me closer to the source of the turmoil. Each step felt like a leap into the abyss. Claire, I called out again, scrubbing my hands against my eyes to drive away the panic and sharpen my focus. The world felt distorted under the weight of fear and uncertainty. As I moved deeper, branches clawed at my arms, but I pressed on, fueled by the need to keep my sister safe. And then I saw Hera's figure silhouetted against the darkness, kneeling and trembling. Her hair spilled like a dark river as she clutched her knees to her chest. My heart lurched, a painful twist of anguish and relief crashing over me. Clara! I shouted, breaking through the undergrowth as I reached her. I'm here? Her head snapped up, eyes widening, shimmering with tears that mirrored the moonlight. What took you so long? Her voice quaked, but there was a flicker of fire in her gaze. I thought they had you too. Who? I asked, breathless. It felt as if the night itself was bearing down on Ushivi, suffocating, threatening to swallow us whole. Before she could respond, shadows shifted around us, shapes coalescing into a circle too familiar yet disturbingly foreign. Figures emerged from the treeline, their appearance a chilling virus of familiarity mingled with malevolence. I recognized them, the whispers that had haunted our community, the rumors, the shared glances that spoke of older debts and darker truths. Let her go, I commanded, adrenaline igniting my voice as I stood protectively in front of Clara. Cute, one of them sneered, his eyes glinting in the faint light. But it's too late for heroics. You've no idea what you're getting into. An icy shiver raced down my spine at his words. A sense of overwhelming hopelessness began to settle in, but the fire in Clara's eyes ignited something within me. I wouldn't let them take her. I couldn't allow this to be how our story ended. What do you want? I spat, forcing my breath to steady, heart hammering. Just a simple exchange, he said, stepping closer, an unsettling smirk stretching across his face. You see, Lilith's return raised a few questions, and it seems our little web has gotten tangled. But we have a solution. Let me guess, you want Lila? I ventured, giving voice to the truth that hung thick in the air. It's not just her we want. You're entangled in this now, and we want all of you. Uncertainty rolled within me, gathering strength as shadows pooled at our feet, swirling like a gathering storm. Detachment clashed with kinship, as I weighed the risk against the already unfolding nightmare. A choice hung heavy in the air. Betray my friend for the sake of my sister, or stand firm and risk everything I held dear. The world whirled around me, and in that moment, a deafening silence enveloped us, broken only by the rustle of leaves, whispering truths I could not yet grasp. And then, in the heart of that unbearable tension, Clara spoke softly, "They know more than we think. You have to trust me." My breath hung in my throat as I stared at her, realizing the weight of her words draped over me like a cresting wave. In her eyes, I saw an understanding that transcended fear, a glimmer of hope that sparked amidst the encroaching darkness. Just then, the air hummed with a disquieting energy, and the ground beneath us began to tremble, a shift heralding something I could not yet understand. As I looked back at that circle of shadows, a pulse of dread surged through mid-air, intentions undulating like a tidal wave, ready to crash down on us. We'll have to make our stand here, I whispered, stealing against the tide of terror. With a swift glance shared between Clara, Jake, and me, we prepared to face the storm that was fast approaching. As the darkness pressed against us, a chilling realization gripped my heart. We had stepped into a world rife with danger, and the truths we would uncover could cost us everything. And above it all, Lilith's name hung heavy in the air, a haunting whisper that reached out to me from beyond the boundaries of our growing shadows. Then the figure stepped closer, revealing his face fully to the moonlight, and a tidal wave of shock washed over me with a jolt, someone I never expected to see again. "You thought you understood the game, didn't you?" he taunted, and that twisted familiarity sent my heart plummeting. "Leo?" I breathed, disbelief crashing through me. It felt as if the world had tilted on its axis, and I was left suspended, caught in the tumult of revelations I could scarcely begin to fathom. The night was thick with tension, each pulse of my heart a reminder of how quickly everything had unraveled. "Leo?" I repeated, the name a fragile whisper that quaked in the stillness. The shadows deepened around us, the weight of unspoken history pressing down. He stepped closer, the moonlight glazing his familiar features, twisting my memories into a kaleidoscope of emotions. Leo had been one of my closest friends, someone whose laughter echoed through our childhood. But the smile was gone now, replaced by something colder, sharp as a shard of ice where warmth used to dwell. "Surprised to see me?" he drawled, a mocking lilt to his voice. "How?" I stammered, the ground shifting beneath my feet. "I thought you," my words faltered, the memory of his departure flooding back, a reckless choice, a bitter fallout. None of us had been the same since, but this was a wound I hadn't expected to reopen. "Thought I'd run off to greener pastures?" he said with a twisted grin. "Life isn't that simple, Claire. You should know that by now." Clara's hand tightened around my wrist, grounding me against the onslaught of confusion and nostalgia. "What do you want, Leo?" she asked, her voice steady despite the quiver beneath her bravado. It was a question rife with distrust, one I echoed silently in my mind. "The same thing I've always wanted," he replied, eyes glinting. "The truth. The game has changed since I left, and you two are unwitting players." "Players? We're not in a game," I shot back, the frustration boiling inside me. "This isn't some twisted scenario for your amusement. Lila is in trouble, Clara, and I are here to save her. Is that what you think?" Leo leaned in, a mocking glint in his eye, drawing closer to the edge of reason. "The truth is, Lila doesn't need saving. She's chosen this idea, a much darker one. You've become part of her chessboard, and the pieces are already moving." A chill crawled up my spine. His words were like tendrils of ice slithering through the fragile hope I clung to. "No, it can't be," I murmured, the pit of despair opening wider in my chest. "She wouldn't, but she has," Leo interrupted, his voice growing louder, drawing the other shadows closer. "And now you both need to decide where your loyalties lie before it's too late. The web you all tangled yourselves in is about to ensnare you. You can either break free or fall deeper into the darkness." "Stop it," Clara cried out, her younger spirit battling against the abyss he beckoned us toward. "You're lying. You just want to manipulate us because you're afraid. And maybe because I'm tired of playing the pawn," he spat back, anger flickering like a flame in his eyes. "I came back for you too, not as a foe, but to warn you. Things are shifting. Lila isn't who you think she is. Those rumors you've been dismissing, that shadows creep and crawl beneath the surface, they're all true." The echoes of despair cascaded over me. Clara and I had spent countless nights concocting stories of our friendship with Lila, never believing our best friend could ever harbor darkness. But Leo was clutching at truths that had slipped through the cracks of our naivete, and I could scarcely imagine the horror of what he was suggesting. "What do you mean?" I demanded, my voice regaining some of its strength, eager to cut through the chaos. "Tell me what you know." But instead of a response, Leo's gaze darkened, cutting to the heart of something deeper, something hidden beneath layers of fear and dread. "There are forces at work here that even I can't fully comprehend, Claire. And the longer you stand here, the more likely you are to find out exactly what you're up against." Then suddenly, the ground shook again, and the shadows flickered like dying embers. An overwhelming pressure hung in the air, drawing my focus to the mass of indistinct figures looming beyond Leo's twisted grin. They were unlike any adversaries I had faced before, their aura drenching the clearing in a palpable foreboding. "We don't have much time," Leo urged urgently, stepping back as if sensing their encroachment. "Make a choice. Save yourselves or become part of Lilith's delusion." For a fleeting moment, a spark of connection flickered between USA glimpse of the boy who had once been a brother to me. But that flicker extinguished when fear clawed at my throat. "Clara, we have to get out of here," I said, grasping her arm. Jake nodded, his gaze darting from Leo to the encroaching darkness, as though sensing a storm on the horizon. But as I turned to push through the vegetation, I felt a searing pain pierce my shoulder. A sharp noise swept over me, and I stumbled forward. Clara's panicked cry tore through the chaos, the sound reverberating against the shadows. My fingers instinctively went to the spot, and when I pulled my hand away, it was slick with warmth, the unmistakable warmth of blood. The world blurred around me as panic set in, the realization trailing me like a specter. "Clara! Jake!" I gasped, but the words tumbled from my lips like the very last colors of dusk, fading into the night. And as I fell to my knees, the rush of darkness enveloped me, pulling me deeper into the abyss. Even as Clara grasped my shoulder, fear and desperation etched across her face, with her voice echoing in my ears as if I were submerged in an ocean, desperate and muffled. The shadows thrummed around us, swirling and veiling the truth. The last thing I remembered before surrendering to the night was the piercing gaze of Leo, a haunting mixture of resolve and sorrow, as if he too was caught in the snare of fate. And I understood none of this was simply a game. The truth that awaited us was so much more profound and terrifying than we could have ever imagined. I woke to distant voices, fragmented and muffled, like whispers fluttering across the remnants of my consciousness. Pain coursed through my shoulder, a fiery reminder that the night had not simply passed, but had devolved into chaos, a tempest swirling around secrets and shadows. As my eyes fluttered open, the world came into focus. Muted light, thick fabric virtually suffocating me, and the omnipresent sting on my skin signaling that I had been hurt deeply. "Claire, are you awake?" Clara's voice was a lifeline, steadying the frenetic whirl of my disoriented mind as I blinked against the dimness that encased us. My heart raced at the realization of what had occurred, the confrontation, the shadows, Leo. "Clara?" I croaked, struggling to push against the blanket that felt like quicksand weighing me down. Panic surged through me as memories rushed back: the attack, the blood, Clara's desperate calls. The heaviness of fear pressed against my chest like a vice. "What happened? Are you okay?" "I'm fine," she hesitated, her breath hitching. "Just worried about you." The sound of concern in her voice lit a flicker of warmth amidst the cold dread that had seeped through my bones. The room around us was dimly lit, with the outlines of unfamiliar objects forming shadows on the walls. I shifted, every move bringing the piercing pain back in waves. Leo the first saw him. The name passed my lips like a confession, laden with both disbelief and the weight of betrayal. "I know," Clara replied, her voice trembling. "But we need to get out of here before he comes back, before they come back." I didn't know how they found us, but those people, they want us. A flood of memories struck me again. Lilith's haunting words, the revelation of shadows and places where we once felt safe, and the foreboding danger lurking around every corner. "Did you see Leo?" I questioned, but even I felt the twinge of hurt in my voice. How could he have betrayed us after everything we went through? "I haven't seen him since the attack," she admitted, her voice holding a depth of vulnerability that tightened my chest. "But I think he's caught up in something else. We have to move, Claire. We can't stay here." Pushing through the haze, I slid my legs over the edge of the bed and caught a glimpse of our surroundings. The dim light filtered in through drawn curtains, revealing a small room that mirrored nothing of familiarity. A bare bulb swung gently from the ceiling and furniture that looked thrown together, the remnants of lives once lived in this space. "Do you think we can trust him?" "Yes," she urged, determination rising, "but we need to keep our distance until we know for sure. We need to focus on getting out." Suddenly, the door creaked open, the floorboards groaning as someone stepped inside. Clara tensed, instinctively darting forward to shield me. But when I turned to look, my breath caught in my throat. It was Jake, and relief washed over me as I saw the familiar spark in his eyes, albeit shadowed by worry. Finally, he breathed, rushing closer. I thought we were going to have to break down a wall to find you too. I didn't know how long you'd be out. What happened? I managed to voice, wincing at the still stinging wound. Was it Leo? Did he come back? His expression darkened, his voice low. We need to talk, but time isn't on our side. I exchanged a glance with Clara, and she released a shaky breath. We were all tethered together in this mounting storm, the fabric of our friendship threatened by the unseen forces that sought to tear us apart. Frustration bubbled within me. What do you mean? Is it about Lila? Did she reach out? Did she say anything? That name twisted my heart, a tether to the emotions escaping our grasp, an ever-present ghost weaving itself into our reality. Yes and no. Jake hesitated, his gaze flickering to the door as though to gauge the safety of our conversation. Lila is involved. She's deep in this, but we need to figure out our next steps quickly. There's more at stake here than just our safety. Sitting up straight, everything sharpened with razor clarity. What do you mean? Pressed my frustration morphing into resolve. Jake's expression hardened, and he leaned closer, voice barely more than a whisper. Lila didn't just vanish. She made a choice. There's a faction behind all this, one that's tied to Leo's past, his connections. Lila is working with them to expose secrets. She thinks the truth will keep her safe. Clara and I exchanged confused glances. Truth? Clara repeated incredulously, her face clouded with doubt. You think she's doing this for the right reasons? She's compelled by something else, something darker, Jake replied, frustration edging his words. She believes putting Leo on the pedestal of truth will redeem him or even give him power. But it puts us all in danger. The truth isn't black and white. It's ugly and tangled. Clara bit her lip, contemplating as the tension hung in the air like a dew-soaked morning. We have to stop whatever she is planning before it goes too far. But how? We don't know what she's capable of now. I pressed, the ache in my shoulder flaring again but tempered by the flame of protective fury igniting within me. A determined gleam sparked in Jake's eyes. We have to find her first. We need to unravel this web of betrayal before it ensnares us. She's still tied to Leo, uses him as a pawn, and we need to bring this into the light. Well, confront the illusion she's feeding, and well, do it together. The connection between us felt electric, overwhelming yet steadying, a reminder that we could face whatever came next if we relied on each other. I glanced at Clara, her resolve mirroring my own. I won't let them take us down. Not without a fight. A sudden knock at the door made us all freeze. They're here, Jake whispered urgently. The walls closed in, our fates entangled in this ever-twisting narrative. Fear seeped through me like venom, yet the embers of hope flickered within. We were still here, still fighting, still bonded by an unyielding spirit that refused to be extinguished. The door swung open, and figures cloaked in dark clothing surged towards us. Their presence was smothering, their energy electric, a mercurial shadow where fear danced on the edges of reason and chaos. Come with us peacefully, a voice commanded, cold and sharp as glass, as a hand reached for Clara already standing beside me. Ready? I yelled, adrenaline wrestling my body into action. Get away from her. The fight surged within me, igniting something fierce, pushing against the leaden weight of our grim reality. And in that instant, grounded by the tether of trust we had woven together, we prepared to unleash the storm, fighting for our truth and for the soul of a friend lost to darkness. With every ounce of strength, we charged forward into chaos, fully aware that the night held no mercy for the unwary but possessed a burgeoning clarity of purpose as we charged toward the inevitable clash where courage would clash against malevolence. Driven by love and undying loyalty, in the ensuing melee, shadows danced around us like phantoms. Each breath held our collective fears at bay, while the last glimmers of sunlight ushered forth a haunting truth. We might just reclaim our own destinies amidst the chaos, unravel the tangled web Lila had spun, turning shadows into strength. And as we pushed into the unknown, the stakes weighed heavily upon us, heartbeats set to the rhythm of a battle deep in the heart of the night. A night yearning for retribution and forgiveness with secrets aching to unravel for those who dared to venture into its depths. "Let's go," Jake shouted, and with that life or death resolve, the fire of rebellion surged in our chests. The truth must be bared, and from that truth we would rise, resolutely and unyieldingly, like phoenixes emerging from the ashes, even in the face of annihilation. We were alive, we fought, and we wouldn't stop until every last layer of deception was stripped bare, until we uncovered the heart of the shadows that sought to consume us. Tomorrow would come anew, and maybe, just maybe, it would bring the light needed to cut through the darkness that had clouded our hearts for so long. In the depths of that darkness we would find our way back to one another, find our light, and above all, we would learn that it wasn't just our fight, Anna Marie, it was for Leo, for Lila, for friends lost and friendships remade. A tapestry of truth awaited in the unlikeliest of places, and we were brave enough to snatch it from the jaws of despair. Together, we would walk into the dawn, hearts aflame and souls unyielding to the shadows that had sought to swallow us whole. Together, with the power of redemption unfurling before us in endless possibilities, we stepped into the heart of an approaching storm, prepared to face whatever truths awaited us. As the sun began to inch its way up beyond the horizon, I whispered a promise into the air, a silent prayer for all that had been lost and all that was yet to come. "We will find you again, Leo. I swear it." And though I didn't yet know what the morning would unveil, I felt the stirring certainty settle deep within, a resolute truth that we would find our way back to one another through the ebb and flow of darkness and light. Whatever awaited us beyond that night, we would face it together, unbroken, united in spirit, and resilient against whatever shadows threatened to rise again. The dawn approached as we charged forward, hand in hand, no longer just fighting for our lives, but for something so much greater than ourselves, an unwavering bond forged in love and resilience. With every step, each heartbeat echoed the reverberations of the certainty we had unearthed. The path to healing begins when we confront our shadows with unwavering unity and courage. Together we would rewrite our story,